The spaceship star path sliced through the void, its engines a low hum like a sleeping giant. Within its metal corridors, the crew moved with the disciplined confidence of a warrior race. They were tall, strong, built for war. Their captain, Lyra, was stronger than them all. Respected, feared, and always in control. Except for right now. Right now, she was just confused. She kept glancing back at the human walking behind her. His name was Eli, and he was her husband. To her crew, this was the strangest thing in the galaxy. Humans were seen as weak, soft, fragile, the complete opposite of a powerful warrior race like theirs. And yet their captain had married one. They just couldn't understand it. Why him? They'd murmur in the corners of the ship. Why choose a human? Some would laugh quietly, saying humans break easily. A small push, a wrong turn, puff, they're gone. Lyra always ignored them. She had seen something in Eli. A calmness, a depth she couldn't quite explain. But even she had her doubts. Eli walked with relaxed steps, hands in his pockets, his eyes soft and peaceful. He looked almost sleepy. He'd greet the crew members politely, and they'd try not to laugh. Next to the hulking warriors in glowing armor, he looked like a child wandering through a warship. Lyra's second-in-command whispered, thinking she wouldn't hear. "He's too weak. If danger comes, he's a liability." Lyra said nothing, but a seed of doubt was planted in her heart. Was her crew right? Was Eli truly too fragile for this life? Just as that thought crossed her mind, alarms screamed through the ship. Beep! 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 Red lights flashed, painting the halls in crimson. Lyra's warrior instincts took over instantly. Her voice became cold steel. "Battle stations, everyone move!" The crew scattered like trained soldiers, the corridors echoing with the sound of boots on metal floors. On the command deck, screens flared with urgent messages, showing a dark, menacing shape approaching through space. Lyra rushed to her post, Eli following quietly behind her, still unnervingly calm. On the main view screen, the enemy ship materialized, large, sharp, shaped like a predator. A dangerous glow pulsed along its dark hull. Lyra's heart tightened. She knew this enemy, the Karthak Raiders, an ancient race infamous for boarding ships, taking captives and breaking them without mercy. They attacked silently, swiftly, and without warning. The communication system crackled with static. "They're jamming our signals," the comms officer reported. Lyra nodded, her face a mask of focus. "Prepare for contact. Shields at maximum." The crew moved with frantic urgency. Everyone was on edge. Everyone, except Eli. He stood at the back, watching the unfolding chaos with calm, observant eyes, almost as if he'd been expecting it. A young officer glanced at him and whispered to another, "The human won't survive this." A small, almost invisible smile touched Eli's lips. It wasn't a happy smile or a nervous one. It was a knowing smile. Lyra saw it but had no time to decipher it. Boom! The ship shook violently as the first enemy strike hit. The Starpath's hull trembled. Sparks flew from a console. Another explosion rocked them. Bomb! The lights flickered. Gravity shifted. Eli stepped forward and placed a steady hand on Lyra's shoulder. She turned, surprised. His face had transformed. His eyes were sharp, focused, no longer sleepy. He said softly, "They're boarding." Lyra blinked. "How do you know?" Eli pointed to a small, flashing symbol on a side screen. "Pods launched. Their formation is designed to cut through the mid-level deck. They'll try to take engineering first." Lyra stared at him. The crew stared too. The human they called weak had just analyzed the enemy's strategy faster than any trained officer on her bridge. Before she could speak, a loud screeching crack echoed through the ship. Metal groaned as the boarding pods struck the star path like iron fists. The enemy was cutting its way in. Lyra drew her weapon. "Prepare to defend." As her crew rushed to the boarding points, Eli's voice cut through the noise, calm and clear. "Seal corridors 7 and 8. Force them through a single path. It will slow them down." Lyra stared again. How did he know the ship's layout so well? Her officer checked the tactical map. "He's right. If we close those corridors, we can create a bottleneck." Lyra didn't hesitate. "Do it!" she shouted. As the crew scrambled, Eli stepped toward a nearby panel and began typing commands. His fingers flew across the interface with a speed Lyra had never seen from him before. The crew exchanged confused glances. Eli wasn't slow, he wasn't weak, he wasn't useless. The truth was just beginning to surface. The ship shook again as the enemy broke through the hull. Lyra stood ready, her crew stood ready, and Eli stepped beside her, his eyes sharp and alert. Lyra looked at him and whispered, almost afraid to ask, "Eli, who are you really?" He didn't answer. He only smiled that knowing smile again. And that smile promised one thing. The weak human everyone doubted was about to prove them all wrong. The enemy boarding pods locked onto the star path like hungry leeches. Their metal claws dug into the hull, cutting through the ship's skin with a shower of sparks. The entire vessel moaned, a dying beast in the cold of space. Lyra stood ready, her weapon raised, heart pounding against her ribs. But the real surprise wasn't the attack. It was Eli, the human. The one everyone whispered about. The one they all thought was weak. He stepped forward not with fear but with a strange, unsettling confidence. It was as if this wasn't his first time facing down death itself. The crew stared, the old whispers returning. Why is he so calm? Does he not understand the danger? Humans panic easily, don't they? Eli ignored them all. He placed both hands flat against the shuddering wall, feeling the deep vibrations of the ship. His eyes were half closed, as if he was listening to something no one else could hear. Lyra watched him, a mix of confusion and curiosity swirling inside her. Finally, he spoke, his voice steady and controlled. "They're almost through, get ready." An officer, his voice tight with tension, demanded, "How can you possibly tell?" Eli's reply was simple, almost chilling. "I can hear the rhythm of their drills." Before the officer could process that, the corridor lights cut out with a loud final clunk. Darkness swallowed everything. Only the eerie, pulsing red of the emergency lights remained. Then, crash! The enemy burst through the hull. Black smoke billowed into the hallway, carrying the silhouettes of monsters. Glowing eyes, armored shadows, gleaming, sharp weapons. The Karthak raiders had arrived, their spiked metal armor shining like blood under the emergency lights. They were massive, built for one thing, war. Screams echoed through the corridor. Enemy on board. Lyra, as captain, stepped forward, her crew bracing for the inevitable clash. But before a single shot was fired, Eli moved. He was a blur of motion, fast, silent, impossibly controlled. He grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her back from the front line. "Don't rush," he ordered, his tone firm, certain. "They want you to charge blindly." Lyra froze. Her entire crew froze. Eli quickly snatched a fallen maintenance panel, his fingers flying across its surface. With a heavy clank, a blast door sealed behind the raiders, trapping them between two sealed sections of the ship. Eli whispered, "Now we control their movement." Lyra just stared, her mind racing. This human, he knows tactics? Her questions were cut short as the raiders advanced, their heavy boots stomping in unison. Their leader roared, raising a massive, crackling plasma blade. Lyra lifted her weapon. Her crew aimed theirs, but Eli stepped in front of everyone. "Eli, move! You'll be killed!" she shouted. He didn't budge. Instead, he lifted a small, simple device and pressed a button. Flash! A blinding burst of pure white light exploded through the corridor. The raiders stumbled back, disoriented, their roars turning to growls of pain. "Humans invented flash grenades long before space travel," Eli said calmly. Seizing the moment, Lyra yelled, "Attack!" Her crew charged and the hallway erupted into chaos. Energy blasts lit up the smoke. Sparks flew from clashing metal, and the air filled with shouts and roars. Through it all, Eli moved with a grace that defied belief. He dodged attacks, pushed crew members out of harm's way, and seemed to predict every enemy move. When two raiders cornered Lyra, he appeared from nowhere, striking a nearby control panel. "Zait," The floor beneath the aliens electrified and they collapsed, stunned. Lyra's eyes widened again. "How do you know all this? You're human." Eli simply replied, "Humans adapt. Remember that." He wasn't the strongest or the biggest, but he was the smartest. The fastest thinker. He was the hope they never knew they had. A raider twice his size charged him. Eli sidestepped smoothly, grabbed its arm, twisted, and with a sickening crack shattered the armored joint. The alien screamed. That wasn't luck. That was experience. Even the enemy began to realize the truth. "This human, he's not normal," one growled in fear. "He's faster than the scanners said," another hissed. Their leader, towering over Eli, roared, "Weak creature, you should not be here." Eli stepped closer, completely unafraid. "I'm exactly where I need to be." The raider swung its giant blade. Eli ducked, rolled, and snatched a piece of broken metal from the floor. In one fluid motion, he jammed it straight into the raider's power core. Boom! The leader exploded in a blinding flash of sparks and fire. The corridor went silent. Smoke, ash, and broken armor littered the floor. In the center of it all stood Eli, his chest rising and falling in a slow, steady rhythm. He wasn't trembling. He wasn't afraid. Lyra stepped forward, her shock giving way to a new understanding. "You are not weak," she whispered. Eli finally looked at her, his eyes glowing faintly in the red light. No human is weak when someone they love is in danger. The words hit Lyra like a physical blow. He wasn't fighting for glory or the ship. He was fighting for her. In that moment, the crew's whispers turned to respect. Their fear turned to admiration. The human they thought would break was their strongest weapon, but the fight wasn't over. A new alarm began to beep urgently. Lyra turned to the main screen and her heart dropped. "More pods. A second wave is coming." Eli's face hardened, his expression grim. "This time," he said, his voice low, "they're bringing something worse." And as the ship trembled once more, Lyra knew with chilling certainty, this invasion had only just begun. The alarms on the star path screamed again. Red lights flashed, painting the hallways in a color of pure dread. The entire ship trembled as new boarding pods slammed into the hull, harder, stronger, faster than before. I felt the vibrations through the soles of my boots. "This wave is bigger," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the chaos. Eli already knew. His eyes were fixed on the tactical display, but I could tell he wasn't just reading it. He was feeling it. 3 impacts, then 2 more. Then a terrifying cluster of 6 at once. I watched him silently count them. "They're not testing us anymore," he said, his voice low and steady. "They're here to crush us." I turned to him sharply, my heart pounding. "Eli, how do you always know before the sensors?" He didn't answer. He just tilted his head as if listening to a sound only he could hear. Around us, the crew was in a full-blown panic. People were running, shouting, scrambling for weapons as sparks erupted from broken panels and smoke filled the corridors. The ship groaned with each new impact. But Eli remained calm. Too calm. I grabbed his arm, needing an answer. "Tell me the truth. How can you do this? You read battles like you've been trained your whole life. You fight like a soldier, but you never told me." He finally spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "Because I'm human. And humans change under pressure." That wasn't an explanation. Not really. Before I could press him, a massive explosion ripped through the deck below. Boom! A heavy blast door slammed shut, trapping several crew members on the other side. Their screams were cut off. I lunged for the control panel to override it, but Eli pulled me back, his grip like steel. "Don't open it," he warned. "They'll pour through." He was right. Again. But how? The raiders breached the hull, and this time they were different. More of them. Stronger. Their armor was heavier and their weapons were terrifying. Shock cannons, energy nets, explosive lances. The leader from the last attack was gone, replaced by new elites. One of them, its eyes glowing a sickly yellow, hissed a command that sent a chill down my spine. The human must die first. Eli looked at the creature without a trace of fear. But this time he didn't attack. He just stood there, completely still, his eyes scanning every enemy, every shift of weight, every twitch of a weapon. I realized with a jolt of fear what he was doing. He was predicting the battle before it even happened. He whispered to me, 3 will attack from the left, 2 from the right, 1 from above. I stared at him, bewildered. How do you know? They're desperate now, he said simply. Desperation is predictable. The aliens charged, exactly as he'd said. My eyes widened in disbelief. He saw it before they even moved. Eli stepped forward with a confidence that was almost unnatural, almost inhuman. The first elite alien aimed its shock cannon at a group of terrified crew members. Eli didn't even seem to think. He just reacted. He sprinted faster than I'd ever seen anyone move, grabbed a fallen metal shield from the floor, and slid in front of them, blocking the blast just in time. The energy crackled against the metal, making it glow red hot, but it held. I could only stare. He moves like he's been trained for war. Another alien lunged at him from behind. Eli didn't even turn around. He just ducked at the perfect moment, the weapon whistling past his head by a hair's breadth. How did you know? I gasped. He replied without looking back, his voice disturbingly calm. Humans don't need eyes in the back. We feel danger. The fight was brutal. The aliens pushed us hard, and our crew fell back overwhelmed. I joined the fight, striking with all my strength, but I couldn't take my eyes off Eli. He didn't fight like a warrior following a doctrine. He fought like a survivor, fast, sharp, and constantly adapting. He was reading his enemies, predicting their moves, changing his style with every single exchange. One of the larger aliens finally got through his defenses, slamming him hard against the wall. Eli! I screamed. He coughed, spitting a trickle of blood, but instead of falling, he smiled. A strange, cold smile. He grabbed the alien's arm, twisted it with impossible speed, and used its own momentum to send it crashing to the floor, its armor cracking under the force. Wiping the blood from his lip, he looked up, and I saw something in his eyes. Not fear, not anger, but a deep primal instinct. A human instinct. After what felt like an eternity, we managed to push the raiders back and seal the corridor. Breathing hard, I finally cornered him. I need the truth. Humans aren't like this, not this fast, not this sharp, not this strong. Eli looked away, hesitating. I wouldn't let him. I grabbed his shoulder, forcing him to face me. Eli, who are you really? His answer was soft, but it sent a shiver through me. Humans look weak when they're safe, but when the people they love are in danger, something inside them wakes up. My stomach tightened. He continued, On Earth, we are trained by life itself, not by armies, not by machines, by everything around us. I whispered, my mind reeling. Your home. It must be a dangerous place. Eli nodded slowly. Earth is full of storms, earthquakes, predators, disease. From the moment we are born, humans have to adapt fast, think fast, and move fast just to survive. It's in our blood. Then why do you always look so gentle? I asked. He gave me a faint, sad smile. Because humans hide their real strength until they absolutely need it. I tried to absorb his words as the alarms blared again. The enemy was regrouping. The walls trembled. Eli turned back to the sealed corridor, his expression hardening. The next wave will be worse, he said. They will bring their commander. I looked at him, a new kind of fear mixing with awe. And what will you do? Eli's eyes darkened, reflecting the flashing red lights. What humans always do. Survive. The ship shook again, but this time it was different. Not the random rattle of debris, but a single heavy impact that sent a tremor through the entire vessel. Thome! I froze, my hand tightening on my blaster. That wasn't a normal boarding pod. Eli, my husband, the ship's unassuming archivist, nodded slowly, his eyes fixed on the hallway monitor. No, he said, his voice low. That was a commander pod. A wave of fear rippled through the crew. Karthak commanders were the boogeymen of the galaxy, giants in powered armor, leaders of death squads, living weapons of war. The corridor plunged into crimson as the emergency lights flickered on. The air felt thick, buzzing with tension. We all stared at the sealed airlock where the pod had docked. A loud hiss broke the silence. Steam billowed from the seams as the reinforced metal began to glow cherry red, melting from the other side. I raised my weapon. My crew formed a defensive line behind me, their faces grim. But Eli stepped forward, completely unarmed. I grabbed his wrist. "No, get back. This is too dangerous." He looked at me, his gaze calm and unwavering. "I won't let him hurt you." For the first time, it wasn't the enemy I was scared of. I was scared for him. The metal door ripped apart with a scream of tortured steel. A colossal figure filled the doorway, silhouetted against the blinding light. The commander was a mountain of muscle and armor, nearly twice as tall as Eli, with glowing red lines tracing the contours of his suit. He stepped into our ship, each footstep a miniature earthquake. We all instinctively took a step back, all except Eli. The commander looked down at the small human standing before him, his lip curling in disgust. "This is your champion?" he growled, his voice like grinding rocks. "This soft creature?" When Eli didn't answer, the commander let out a deep, echoing laugh that vibrated in my chest. "Human, why do you stand before me? Do you wish to die first?" Eli tilted his head slightly. "No. I want you to leave my wife alone." My heart skipped a beat. A collective gasp went through the crew. The commander roared and ignited his massive plasma blade. The weapon hummed with deadly energy, casting a brilliant white glow across the corridor. He leveled it at Eli. "You challenge me? You. A weak—" Eli cut him off, his voice sharp. "Words are cheap. Show me your strength." Even I couldn't believe his audacity. The commander charged, a force of nature unleashed. The floor plates cracked under his feet as his blade swung with explosive speed. But Eli was already gone. He'd moved with a fluidity that defied logic, slipping under the deadly arc. The commander bellowed in frustration. "Stand still!" He swung again and again, each strike powerful enough to cleave the ship in two. And Eli dodged every single one. No armor, no weapons, just pure instinct and impossible timing. He was reading the alien's movements like a book. The commander grew sloppier in his fury, his powerful attacks becoming wild and predictable. Eli's calm was a stark contrast to the alien's rage. "You are strong," Eli said, his voice even as he sidestepped another blow. "But strength without control is weakness." This only enraged the commander further. He charged blindly, a fatal mistake. Eli pivoted and struck a precise blow to an unarmored joint at the commander's knee. Crack! The alien screamed in pain. The commander lashed out, grabbing Eli and slamming him against the wall. "Eli!" I screamed, but he twisted mid-impact, absorbing the force and landing silently on his feet. He brushed dust from his shoulder. "Too slow," he said. The commander's rage boiled over. He plunged his blade into the floor, sending a shockwave through the deck. Eli used the distraction, running up the fractured metal like a ramp. The commander looked up, but it was too late. Eli jumped, striking the exposed wiring under the commander's shoulder plate. Sparks erupted. The commander stumbled back, his armor shorting out, his body convulsing. He fell to one knee, but he wasn't finished. Refusing to accept defeat, he forced himself up, his eyes glowing with renewed fury. His armor hissed, shifting into a deadlier configuration. "I will destroy you!" he screamed, launching himself forward faster than before. My tactical instincts screamed at me to move, to help, but I was too far. The blade swung. Eli dodged, but not completely. The plasma edge scraped his arm. Blood sprayed onto the floor. My heart stopped. The commander grinned, a terrifying sight. "You bleed, you feel pain, you are weak." Eli's voice turned colder than the void of space. "Yes, I bleed. Humans do." He looked the towering alien dead in the eye. "But pain makes us stronger." He lunged forward, exploiting the commander's overconfidence, striking the damaged joint again, and again, and again. Crack, crash, crunch. The armor plate shattered. The commander collapsed, roaring in agony. Eli stood over him, breathing heavily, and raised a jagged piece of metal like a dagger. He whispered, "Leave my wife's ship." And then he brought it down. A heavy thud echoed through the silent corridor. Silence. The crew just stared, shocked, amazed, inspired. Tears of relief and pride streamed down my face. I ran to him, throwing my arms around him. "You saved us. Again." Eli smiled faintly, wincing from his wound. "As long as I'm alive, no one will hurt you." Just then the ship trembled again, but this wasn't an impact. It was the proximity alert. I turned to the main scanner console. My blood ran cold. My face went pale. "Eli, the entire enemy fleet is here." His eyes hardened, his gentle demeanor gone, replaced by a warrior's resolve. "Then the real battle," he said, "is about to begin." The alarms had finally gone silent, but this silence felt wrong. It was the kind of quiet that makes the hairs on your arm stand up. The ship drifted aimlessly in the blackness of deep space, with only the dim, pulsing red emergency lights painting the corridors. Every shadow seemed to writhe and twist, and the sound of my own breath felt like a drumbeat in the sudden stillness. Beside me, Zara walked with a confidence I'd never seen before. My wife, who I'd always seen as soft and gentle, now moved with the steady purpose of a seasoned warrior. I followed her, a strange mix of admiration, fear, and a newfound respect swirling inside me. I have to admit I never really understood humans, not truly, not until this very moment. We were heading to the central chamber. The intel said the last of the invaders' elite warriors were holed up there. These things, they weren't like any species I'd ever encountered. Tall, encased in shifting armor, cold and emotionless. They moved like machines, and their weapons could peel the hull of this ship open like a can. Yet somehow, they were afraid of something, and I was just starting to realize what that something was. We reached the sealed blast door. Zara placed her hand on the scanner, the biometric reader glowing green under her palm. She took a slow, deliberate breath. "Ready?" she asked, her voice perfectly calm. I gave a firm nod. Always. The door hissed open, revealing the 5 elite invaders waiting inside. Their armor shimmered with contained energy. Their leader, a towering figure, stepped forward, his voice a low, metallic growl. "Human, we knew you would come." Zara didn't even flinch. A small, almost chilling smile touched her lips. "Then you know what comes next?" I just blinked. How was she so calm? I'm a trained Xylos warrior, and my heart was hammering against my ribs. The invader leader raised his plasma spear. "You are dangerous," he rasped. "Too dangerous. Weak on the outside, but something else inside. Unpredictable." Zara's smile widened. "That's our specialty." And then all hell broke loose. Zara moved like a storm. She was a blur of focused, lethal grace. She ducked under a sizzling energy blast, rolled across the floor, and slammed her fist directly into an invader's chest plate. There was a sickening crack as the advanced alloy dented inward. My jaw literally dropped. How? She wasn't genetically enhanced. She wasn't a cyborg. She was just human. The invader she hit flew backward, crashing into a control panel with an explosion of sparks. Another one charged, arm blades extended, but Zara sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and used his own momentum to twist and slam him into the deck. The entire room shook. That finally snapped me out of my shock. I raised my rifle and joined the fray, laying down covering fire as Zara weaved through the enemy. We moved like we'd been training together for a lifetime, our movements syncing up, instinctively protecting each other. But these elites were tough. One of them got past my defenses, his blade slashing across my shoulder. A hot, searing pain shot through me, and I dropped to one knee. "Rylak!" Zara's voice was sharp with worry. That single moment of distraction was all they needed. The leader seized the opportunity, firing a beam of cryo-energy straight at her. Ice instantly crawled up her arm and across her chest, her muscles locking up, trapping her in a frozen prison. My eyes widened in horror. "Zara, move!" But she couldn't. The frost was spreading, encasing her completely. The invader leader stepped closer, his weapon humming. Humans are fragile, he said. Your inner strength means nothing when your body fails. A pure, primal rage burned through my fear and pain. I struggled back to my feet. Don't you touch her, I screamed, unloading my blaster at him. He just raised an energy shield, deflecting every shot until my weapon overheated and died in my hands. I threw it aside, my vision blurring from the blood loss. It was over. But then, I saw it. Zara, locked in ice, was staring at the invader with an impossible fire in her eyes. And on the surface of the ice, tiny cracks started to form. The frost began to glow from within. The invader leader stopped, turning to her in confusion. Impossible, he muttered. You should be paralyzed. Zara exhaled, her breath turning into a cloud of vapor. You underestimate the human will. With a deafening roar, a shockwave of pure force erupted from her body, shattering the ice into a million pieces. She lunged forward and drove her fist into the leader's chest. The impact sent him flying across the chamber, his armor shattering as he slammed into the far wall and collapsed. The remaining invaders just froze, their machine-like composure completely broken. Zara walked toward them, her voice dropping to a low, cold whisper. Now leave my family alone. Her power was terrifying. It was beautiful. It was beyond anything I could have comprehended. The elites didn't hesitate. They dragged their fallen leader and scrambled toward a swirling portal of light that opened behind them, vanishing without a trace. The room fell silent once more. The adrenaline faded, and Zara collapsed to her knees, breathing heavily as steam rose from her skin where the ice had been. I rushed to her side, holding her. Zara, what are you? I whispered, my voice trembling. She looked up and gave me a weak smile. Human, just human. I was still trying to process it. But how? Her eyes, full of a light I'd never seen before, met mine. We don't break easily, Rylak, especially when everything seems impossible. We just keep fighting. I pulled her into a tight embrace. You saved us all. She shook her head, resting it against my chest. We saved each other. Just then, the entire ship shuddered violently. Red lights flashed everywhere, and a new, deeper voice boomed over the comms. We are not done. Zara and I looked at each other. The exhaustion, the relief, it was all gone, replaced by pure resolve. The real battle was just beginning. The voice that echoed through the ship was deeper, colder, and far more dangerous than anything they had faced before. It carried an immense weight, as if it came from something ancient and vast. Zara and Rylak stood frozen in the corridor, the frost from the previous battle still melting from their armor. They just stared at each other, the same fear reflected in their eyes. Who was that? Rylak whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the damaged ship. Zara shook her head slowly, her own breath catching in her throat. Not the elites. Someone. Something. Above them. Just then, the ship trembled again, but this time it was different. It wasn't the shudder of an explosion or a system failure. This vibration felt alive, organic, like the scuttling of some colossal creature crawling across the outer hull. Rylak quickly tapped his wrist comm. Bridge, report. What's our status? The only reply was a burst of static. No voices, no automated emergency systems. Just a dead, chilling silence. Zara pushed herself to her feet, her exhaustion forgotten, replaced by a surge of adrenaline. We need to move. Now. They broke into a run, sprinting through the ravaged corridors. They passed walls ripped open like tin cans, sparks showering from exposed wiring, and the twisted, shattered remains of the drones they had fought. The whole ship felt heavier, sluggish, almost as if something enormous had latched onto its frame, dragging it down. As they rounded the final corner leading to the bridge, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into a strobing nightmare of light and shadow. Then everything went dark. Total blackness. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of their own ragged breaths. A moment later, a huge single red eye ignited on the far wall of the bridge entrance. It wasn't a real eye, but a hologram, pulsing with malevolent light. A towering figure materialized from the darkness, its form shifting like smoke made of metal and shadow. It had long, sharp-angled arms and no discernible face, just a glowing red core embedded in its chest. Rylak instinctively moved in front of Zara, raising his blaster, his knuckles white. "Identify yourself!" The hologram's voice filled the entire ship, vibrating in their very bones. "I am the Overseer." Zara narrowed her eyes, stepping out from behind Rylak. "You're the one controlling the invaders." "Correct," the Overseer replied, its tone eerily calm. "The elites failed. You succeeded where countless others did not. Impressive." Rylak didn't like it. The voice was too calm, too confident. "What do you want?" he demanded. "To understand the anomaly," the Overseer said, its red core pulsing softly. "The human, the weak creature who is not weak." Zara stood taller, defiance flashing in her eyes. "I am not an anomaly. I am me." The Overseer's red eye seemed to focus on her, pulsing faster. "Incorrect. Humans are unpredictable. Your species is dangerous. Your potential is limitless but unstable. You threaten the balance." Rylak tightened his grip on his blaster. "Leave her alone." The hologram tilted its head, a strangely human-like gesture for such an alien being. "Do you even understand who you married, Terran?" Zara clenched her fists. "Enough!" But the Overseer continued, its voice a low rumble. "The invaders saw it. The elites measured it. Your power is growing. Too fast. Faster than the human body should allow." Rylak risked a glance at her. "Zara, is that true?" For the first time since he'd known her, Zara looked away, her confidence wavering. She looked unsure. "I don't know," she whispered. "Something changed inside me. During the attack. When I fought them, when I broke the ice, it felt like I unlocked something." The Overseer's voice boomed like rolling thunder. "You are evolving. Humans can adapt in battle, a primitive survival trait. But you are different, a rare case. The more danger you face, the stronger you become." "That sounds like a good thing to me," Rylak shot back. "No," the Overseer replied sharply. "It makes her a threat, and threats must be controlled." Suddenly, the hologram's red eye expanded, swirling into a crimson vortex. From the ceiling and walls, thick black wires burst forth, snaking downward like living tentacles, their tips glowing with energy. The ship's systems groaned, twisting and reconfiguring under the Overseer's absolute control. Rylak grabbed Zara's arm. "Run!" But it was too late. The corridor behind them sealed shut with a deafening slam, trapping them in a metal cage. The wires lunged. Zara stepped forward, her eyes fierce and resolute. "I'm not afraid of you," the Overseer's voice rumbled. "Fear is irrelevant." The wires wrapped around Zara's arms and legs, hoisting her into the air. A blinding energy surged through them, and her scream of agony echoed through the dark chamber. Rylak fired his blaster wildly, the energy bolt splashing harmlessly against the cables as they reformed instantly. "Stop!" he screamed. "You're hurting her." The Overseer ignored him completely. "I am analyzing her power and absorbing the stress signatures." Zara strained against the restraints, her voice a choked gasp. "Rylak, don't— No!" he growled, a primal rage taking over. "I won't leave you." He threw himself at the mass of wires, grabbing hold of them and pulling with every ounce of his strength. Excruciating pain shot through him as the cables shocked him, but he gritted his teeth, refusing to let go. Suddenly, Zara's eyes began to glow, shining with a brilliant white light. "Rylak," she whispered, her voice trembling but changing. "Let go." He shook his head, his muscles screaming in protest. "No. Please." Her voice was different now, calm, steady, and impossibly powerful. "Trust me." He hesitated, then slowly released his grip, stumbling backward. The Overseer seemed to pause, its analytical processes registering this new development. And then everything changed. A pulse of pure, raw energy burst from Zara's body. The wave of force was so powerful it blew the wires to pieces. The Overseer's hologram flickered violently, glitching and tearing apart. The entire ship screamed as if it were being torn apart from the inside. Zara fell to her knees, breathing hard, the blinding light in her eyes fading. Rylak rushed to her side as the hologram vanished and the main lights flickered back on. Systems began to reboot. An eerie calm settled over the bridge, but it felt temporary, like the silence before a hurricane. He wrapped his arm around her, helping her up. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly, her gaze distant. "I think so. But something is changing inside me, Rylak. I can feel it." The ship hung in a dead silence after the Overseer's hologram vanished. But this wasn't a peaceful silence. It was the kind of quiet you get right before a massive explosion, the air itself holding its breath. Rylak and Zara stood on the command deck, the only light coming from broken screens and flickering emergency strobes. Zara's hands were trembling, but not with fear. It was pure energy. Something inside her was still shifting, still waking up from a long sleep. Rylak took a step closer, his voice low. "You are glowing again." Zara looked down at her own palms. A soft white light pulsed beneath her skin, steady as a heartbeat. "It won't stop," she whispered. "I don't know if I can control it." He gently took her hand, his touch grounding. "You can. You always do." But Zara just shook her head. "This is different. Before, the power came from fear, from needing to protect you, from fighting for our lives. But now, it's just here, inside me, even when everything is calm." Rylak's concern was written all over his face. "Is it hurting you?" "No," she said, "but it's pushing me. It's like it wants me to move, to evolve into something more." Before he could even begin to process that, the warning lights flashed a violent red. An alarm blared. Incoming ships. Rylak's heart froze. "Already?" He scrambled to the command console, bringing the forward cameras online. Outside the ship, against the vast, star-dusted blackness, a fleet was approaching. Dozens of ships, each shaped like a razor-sharp blade, glowed with a cold, menacing white light. Zara stepped up beside him, her voice grim. "Invader reinforcements." Rylak nodded. "The Overseer is coming." Zara's voice dropped to a whisper. "He wants me." The fleet spread out, fanning into an attack formation. The largest ship, a true monster, moved to the center. Its massive eye-like core began to glow a threatening red. A transmission crackled through the speakers, distorted but chillingly clear. "Deliver the human, or perish." Rylak slammed his fist on the console. "Never." Zara placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch firm. "They won't stop unless I face them." Rylak turned to her, his eyes wide with panic. "No, you can't go out there alone." She offered a small, soft smile. "I won't be alone. You're with me." He nodded, his resolve hardening. "Always." Just then, the ship shook violently as the invader fleet began powering up their weapons. A countdown appeared on the main screen. 60 seconds before the first strike. Rylak grabbed the emergency controls. "We need a plan, Zara, now!" Zara closed her eyes, focusing inward. "I can feel something. A direction. It's like the power inside me is pointing somewhere." "Pointing where?" he asked, his fingers flying across the console. She lifted her glowing hand, pointing toward a patch of empty stars. "To an energy source, not far from here. Something ancient. Something incredibly strong." "A weapon?" Rylak asked, a spark of hope in his voice. "No," she said. "Not a weapon. A defense, a shield. Maybe even a force that can help us." The ship shook again. 40 seconds left. Rylak punched in the coordinates she was sensing. The scanners immediately confirmed it. A large, hidden object in a nearby sector, cloaked by powerful energy fields. "What is that?" he muttered. The ship's AI, its voice faint and weak, replied, "Unknown structure detected. Possible ruins. High power signature." Zara's eyes snapped open. "We go there." Rylak hesitated for a split second. "And if it's a trap?" Zara's smile returned, this time with a dangerous edge. "Then we fight our way out." 30 seconds. Rylak took a deep breath and slammed the engines to full power. "Hold on!" The ship lurched forward, rocketing away from the invader fleet. Beams of white-hot energy shot past them, narrowly missing. The hull screamed under the extreme pressure. Rylak shouted over the noise, "Faster!" Zara raised her glowing palm toward the engine controls. The ship's lights flickered, and a surge of raw power flowed through its systems. The ship accelerated beyond its known limits. "We're moving too fast!" Rylak yelled, fighting the controls. "No," Zara whispered, her eyes closed. "We're moving just enough." The invader fleet gave chase, but they were slowly falling behind. 10 seconds. Then they arrived. A massive structure materialized out of the void, a huge floating ring in space, ancient and silent with energy flowing around it like a golden halo. It looked dead, and yet somehow profoundly alive. Rylak could only stare in awe. What is this place? Zara felt the power inside her resonate with the structure, like two tuning forks vibrating in perfect harmony. A gateway, or a guardian. I don't know yet. 5 seconds. The ship slowed, hovering near the magnificent ring. The invader fleet appeared behind them, their weapons fully charged and aimed. Rylak checked the scanners. We're out of time. Zara stepped forward, her body now glowing brighter and brighter. Then let's wake it up. She placed her hand on the main console. A beam of pure white light shot from her palm, striking the ancient ring. The structure responded instantly. Lights blazed to life across its surface. Energy spiraled and coalesced, forming a massive radiant shield of power that enveloped the ring. And their ship. The invader fleet fired. The blasts hit the shield and vanished, fizzling out like sparks hitting water. Rylak stared in shock. It worked. Zara, you activated it. But Zara didn't answer. Rylak turned to her and his blood ran cold. Her eyes were wide, her body trembling uncontrollably. Light poured from her like a star going nova. "Zara!" he shouted. She collapsed to her knees, the sheer power overwhelming her. Rylak rushed to her, holding her tight. "Stay with me." Her voice was a shaky, terrified whisper. I can feel something else. Someone else, watching me, from inside the ring." He swallowed hard. "Who?" She looked up, her eyes now shining with pure, blinding white light. "An ancient mind," she whispered, and it just woke up. The ring trembled. A voice filled the space around them, not from speakers, not from the ship, but from everywhere at once. A voice that felt older than time. "Human, why have you awakened the Guardian?" The invader fleet, for the first time, paused their attack. Even they seemed hesitant, afraid. Rylak and Zara exchanged a terrified glance. This wasn't the end of their problems. The real story was just beginning.